Hi everyone, I am Mohamed Salah. I know this talk is like having a bit weird name, but I will explain that in a second. First of all, I would like to introduce myself. I'm Mohamed Salah, a principal security researcher at Oracle. Obviously, I'm not the football player because like many of people like notice that. So yeah, I'm basically offensive security geek by day, and I love to do some gaming per night. I also like to play CTF when I have some time. So yeah, like, why would someone hunt eggs in cybersecurity field? This is a bit weird, yeah? So basically, this is actually a term in binary exploitation or exploit development field when we try to find something in the memory. So that's why we call it egg. So basically, what we're doing, we have like a marker or a stub, which is like 4 or 8 bytes in the memory when we try to do the exploits. And we basically do that when we have like a very limited space or like space restriction. We call it like limited buffer size or space restriction. So basically, we need to put like the shellcode anywhere in the memory and then try to find it. Also, the browser exploitation guy is using it, and it's another technique called heap spraying. When you just like having your exploit or your shellcode, which is like the shellcode, basically the thing that will be getting executed, either it's reverse shell or from like copying file to like having reverse shell and whatever. So yeah, basically like the heap spraying is having a memory full of nobi sleds, which is like hex 90, and you try to find it with again this egg term, or like you will be having something called egg hunter to find it. And last but not least, and what we'll be discussing more in this talk, it will be about like bypassing AV and EDRs with multi-staged payload. So instead of finding your whole egg or all like shellcode at one point, the EDR will be trying to find it and flag it. Instead of you will be like having some chunks and try to find it one by one and then concatenate it at the end. And this is called like multi-stage payload, and that's how you can bypass EDRs or like the AV or whatever like security solution you're dealing with. So yeah, a little bit of recap for who's not familiar with binary exploitation or exploit development. Basically, we have like the basic exploit would be having the buffer, then the instruction pointer. So you just like to like overflow the application or like the executable, try to find the instruction point when you can instruct the application to do whatever you want. This is called instruction point, and then you put the shellcode after that, which basically what you need the application to get to be executed. The instruction pointer, basically you can jump to the ESB, which is 4 bytes. You need to find it in the memory, and the ESB is basically the execution pointer that you need to jump to make the execution works for your shellcode. The average size for the shellcode would be like from 200 to 300 or even like to 600 bytes according to your adjustment to your shellcode. But yeah, let's see a problem here. Basically, when you fuzz the app at first, you send like a whole bunch of data like A's or whatever the character. So for example, if you send like 2000 A bytes, but you see like if it's truncated after a year, it's like around after 100 bytes or something like that, it's truncated. It's maybe like the end of the memory page, maybe it's get misused by some other memory, it's getting detected, whatever. So this is the first memory. So someone can say, okay, there is another very logical way to put your shellcode in the buffer itself. So this is a very another logical way, yeah. You can put your shellcodes and jump to your shellcode instead of just like having it after your instruction pointer. But again, we have some problems here. The problem number one, what if the buffer size itself is not enough to have the whole shellcode in it? Like sometimes if you are trying to exploit something with the buffer like 128 or 256 bytes, you still don't have much space to put your whole shellcode in it. Something like this image, if you can see, like it's get truncated specifically after 251 bytes, where it's, yeah, you can bob a calc maybe, but this is not actually exploitation, yeah? Like what you will get after bobbing a calc? Nothing. You need like actual shellcode or actual reverse shell to prove you're having BOC, right? The problem number two, like as I said, you need a jump instruction to your ESB, your execution point, so you can jump to the top of the stack to start executing your payload. But sometimes it's very restricted that you can't find a gadget that even jumping to your exploit. So there is no jump ESB, for example. or like call ESP or whatever. Like there is many ways to jump to your shellcode. And the last thing, when you, for example, exploiting web applications, the shellcode or like your whole thing is not, it's totally in another place. You can't control where it is. It can be unpredictable. It can be just dynamic in the memory. Like the memory space is huge, so it can be another parameter. It can be totally somewhere else. So yeah, here comes the eggs in work to make it happening. Basically, how egg working, as you can see in here, this is the memory layout, like a random memory page, and then you put the egg stub before your shellcode, so you recognize where is your shellcode is, and there is like another data, then you have you controlling your buffer, and after the buffer, you will be having a little specific, some sort of the code, which is called egg hunter. That's the one like you constructing a set of assembly to go back in the whole memory places to find where is your egg and where is your shellcode. So yeah, the idea again is like wherever your shellcode is in the memory, it should be find it and execute it. Here is a little bit of a legacy of shellcode, egg hunter and how it's working. You can hear the term in Metasploit or Skyline de facto. So yeah, I can go a little bit faster. So basically, you have this is the assembly code that the egg hunter works at. You have the memory pages. You using EDX to iterate for the memory pages. You move to the next memory. If you find, this is like the very basic, as I said, and it's using NT-access check and audit alarm, which is like a system call that checking and probing every memory page, and then checking if you have access to the memory page first. If you have access, you will be trying to check all the memory and compare it with your local, your egg marker, which is woot, as many of you guys know about it, which is the, as I said, like the memory standard. The de facto standard for like exploits in Metasploit and many places. If it's found, as I mentioned before, it's 8 bytes, so it again will check back if it's like the next 4 bytes is another woot or like the same egg marker. If it's the same, okay, like it will be jump to EDI and start the execution of your payload. If not, it will be go to another memory page to just make sure if it's not just like 4 random bytes and it just like have been to the same as your like just coincidence that it's the same as your egg stub. Okay, so I mentioned that like egg hunting, but it's having many types. Over ages, it's got evolved. The first and based one is called like the 2E system call, which is the NT based. It's probing the one of them is like display string, which is trying to display the string in the memory and find it, and the other one is like check and audit alarm, which I showed in the last page, and it's basically doing the same. The second one is the SEH based, which is like execution handler in the Windows. Basically, as I mentioned, it's swapping the memory and checking every page, and if it's wrong, it can do access violation and crash your code. Like I'm talking about like the very basics one. But if that can happening, we can be doing the SEH ourselves. Like we can do exception handling the memory and do it ourselves. So this is the EH based on. It will be a bit evading like getting crashed or getting things access violation by the memory. And the last one is like the alphanumeric or encoded, which is being using all alphanumeric things to not having like some weird hexadecimals that can crash the memory again. Which I prefer like the SEH based myself because we'll discover that why. Okay. So yeah, the story behind this talk. One day I was doing my gaming session at night. One of my friends came to me telling me that trying to do some work, and he made sure that like his RobGad gets he's bypassing like the execution policy in Windows. He even like leaked the base address of from the SLR, and he's doing totally fine. But still, he can get his current binary works on his debug machine, because yeah, of course, like we have like debug machines, we test all the exploitation first on the debug machines, and we apply it on the targets. So yeah, he was trying to he was just like a little bit getting mad because he having everything working on the debug machine, but he can't make it to work in the target, which is this thing like make you mad when yeah, it's why it's not working here. So at the next day, I checked the code. And the code of his exploitation, for sure, I found, yeah, I think he having his robot chain, his gadgets working fine, nothing looks wrong. But I checked what kind of egg hunter he using, and I found that he using the basic egg hunter, which is many people doing, and with the basic like woot woot, which is the egg, which is everyone using. If you try to get Metasploit to craft you an egg hunter, it will be like by woot woot. So what I changed the whole egg hunter to SEH, which is execution handler, so I can do the handler for like the memory pages and try to check if it's having exception myself. And basically, it's still working in the debug machine, but it's not working on the target. So I tried to do a little bit something tricky. I just changed the marker to leet, which is something different than the standards of everyone using. And surprisingly, it worked. Like with SEH and with leet another marker, it's now searching for a different thing, and it worked fine. And it was actually like a CVE recently. So that was huge. So that's why I thought like we need to talk about this. We need to let everyone know that we shouldn't be using just the memory standard. We need to evade things in some new ways, because like a little things that can be avoiding you to reach your final goal, which is like exploiting something huge. So yeah, I did some researches and I found like how EDR works and how it's basically evolved over time with egg hunters. So the first thing, for example, it would be better to use custom or random eggs instead of just having like 4 bytes memorable or like bond word or whatever the word. It would be either to better like just use any 4 random bytes. And I would also recommend that to use brand new egg per target or per exploit, because like if the EDR flags that you're searching for something, it will be keep flagging it forever probably. Also, the other way is like you can adjust your egg hunter to search for different 4 bytes. You can just like adding up around 2 or 3 assembly instructions. So it will be, instead of searching for the same 4 bytes, it will be searching for another 4 bytes. For example, XZ12, XZ34, and if it's find that, it would be totally different in the memory, and it would be harder to get flagged. Of course, recon first. Reckoning would make things easier and make your life easier, basically, for you. If you know your OS version and if you know what EDR, you can just use indirect syscalls, because basically OS versions keep changing the syscalls over time, but anyone can find it, whatever the version is. You can find like your syscall on many places actually. So if you know what OS version you're trying to exploit, you can easily direct syscall to it instead of just keep probing and find your shellcode. Yeah. Also, the memory page or walking techniques, if EDRs find that if you searching memory page one by one, it will flag. Yeah, someone keep checking all the memory page for the current process one by one. It can be suspicious activity. So instead of that, you can just be having randomizing again your memory walking instead of like you can just like having random numbers from like 1 to 1,000, and you can just randomize it. Also, like there is the custom shellcode and encoders. Many people just like trying to use MS Venom, for example, to get them a meter-operator shell or something. But if you learn how to use a custom shellcode and how to create shellcode and how to, for example, change the bad character and adjust it, that would be a huge plus, and it would be just not like a signature based anymore. It would the encoders for MS Venom, like Shakataganai or something like that, it's definitely flagged. Almost like I would say 90% of the known encoders right now, it can be flagged easily. So it's not a way to do your exploits right now. List sliding, I see that many people do mini sliding before their shellcode, which is a good way to make sure that your code going to work smoothly. But still, much sliding in the memory will cause like memory suspicious process again. So yeah, like try to list the slides as possible. I try to make it like 8 maximum or like 16, which is I think works fine. And instead of using slides, you can just use mix of Benjamin looking instructions like increment EX, for example, or increment ECX, which is like 43, like the C character. It would be like increment ECX when it gets into your shellcode. And The last thing is like the SEH chains, which is basically it's a memory linked. It's if it's have a like exception, it will go to the next in the TEB memory, and that would be a better idea to instead of just using like the direct syscalls or like the 2E way. All right, key takeaways, like EV evasion is not magic. Like anyone can do EV evasion with just very small tricks. As I said, like I was able to just change the stub and change it directly to it's exploited. So yeah, many people come around and say like EV evasion is like a huge invention and something like that. But yeah, sometimes it's very small techniques or very small changes make a big differences. Avoid legacies, as I mentioned, like you don't need to use legacies anymore because basically it can be good for training. Many of us like trained on that on Hack the Box or whatever the platform. It can work there, but in the real world it won't be. Like you just find yourself, okay, I wasted my time in training, but there is nothing looks like that in the real world. Yeah, try to think creatively. If you have something stopping with you, just like try to change a little bit of the things, and it can work with you. Try to get out of the box, check what is, for example, how things evolving, how the EDRs have been blocking your process, what's been going wrong, and try to change or adjust like a little bit of, for example, like the sliding, the loading for the memory, the way you like write the process or allocate new memory, and it can work for you. Yeah, of course, collaboration works. I know that many of the cyberspace people are introverts, so they just try to find the things themselves. We will not seek any help. But yeah, like just a new fresh eyes will get you, maybe it will help you, and collaboration always works, to be honest. Like even for like the very biggest companies, when they like provide the research, it's like a teamwork. It's very rarely to be like individual work, or either it would be like 2 years or 3 years work, or it can be like just being like 1 month's work or something with a team. So yeah, this is a bonus section. I have been talking about eggs, but there is also 2 other techniques if someone are aware about it. I'm not sure if I need to spoil it or not, but yeah, there is like the egg omelette and the egg sandwich with 2 different techniques. I would say like maybe it would be the homework to search for them and find how they works because it works in a different way. And basically, I can give a little bit about this, like this scramble the eggs and you can concatenate it somehow, and the egg sandwich, instead of having only one step at the beginning and find the shell code, sometimes it's getting corrupted. So it will be having like a marker at the beginning of your shell code and the marker at the end of your shell code. And when the marker matches with like the signature and or like the size, it will start exploiting it instead of exploited a corrupt shell code. And I think by that, I think I made you guys hungry, so I think it's lunch time probably now. I'm not sure if I take much time. And yeah, I would love to hear any questions. And here is my contact if someone would like to contact me.
Can I have questions?
Sure.
Questions from anyone?
Okay, I've got one. So how do you decide upon a binary to begin investigating an exploit on? So I understand it's probably part of your work, but how do you go and choose one? You can't just go, I think I'm going to do this one and then just start picking it. Or maybe it is like that.
Well, regarding the work, you know what you are going to work on instead of in your company, but like if it's going to research, it would be something, maybe I would say something many people looking at it.
Yeah.
Something, for example, many user having like a big user base. So if you find something in it, it will be affecting billions, I would say. For example, like a social media app or something like that. Otherwise, like for in your normal work, you don't need to really research on something, but if you need to seek another exploitation somewhere else, it can be like just like a web application or web assembly or something like that you need to exploit. So it can make your target easier, even if it's not your actual work or like your whole project, but something can help from other way would be helping you in your work.
Cool.
So.
And one more as well, which is if people want to get into binary exploitation and related industries, are there any learning resources you'd recommend yourself?
So the resources for the Linux is huge. Like there is the bonable.kr, for example. Like there is many resources in Hack the Box. But for the Windows one, I would say maybe like the OSED, like Exploit Development course for Windows, which is I feel that the Windows very rarely to find the big infos about it, and most of the things in Windows, yeah, like for example, like the corporate side applications, it would be Windows and Mac for sure, but still the Windows one would be more area to explore, to be honest. And yeah, I think like the Linux one, it can be anywhere. I would say the Linux is easy to approach because I see that I would take like 3 or 4 steps in the Windows just like to make something like read to libc, for example. It would be taking 3 or 4 steps. So it's a bit harder. Not many people looking at the Windows stuff. Or even the CTF, like if someone getting trained, he will be probably find 90% Linux exploitables. So yeah, I recommend the OSED for Windows, and for sure like OSE if you want to go further more in the exploits. And for the Linux, there is many things you can find. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anything else for anyone else? Okay. Oh, yeah, one there.
So you showed us how these techniques that they are really useful to bypass like AV detection and everything. But do you think like modern AV with AI and stuff, they're going to be capable to detect the egg hunting techniques, or not? They're still useful?
Yeah, it would, but after time, you know, like as I said, like if you try to change your exploit every time, try to change the marker, try to like if you do combination of all that, it won't be able to check it from the first time. But the thing is, like I see many people fail the first exploit and then it will be failing forever because they didn't change anything in the exploit, which is a bit hard with like the AI and stuff because it would be keep tracking what you're doing. But if you change like almost all the shellcode, for example, if you try to do something else, if you try to probe another memory page, if you try to find like another memory working technique. And also, actually, I remember something, if you know what is like the memory region you are looking at, it would be faster to approach your exploit, and it would be harder to detect. Also, like there is the SEH in TLS, which is like thread local storage. EDR is not checking into this thing. So yeah, you can just put your egg hunter or like the shellcode into that, and it would be working fine. But yeah, of course, like it's always like the cat and mouse game. They find something, we do evolving and so on. So yeah, thank you.
Anyone else? No? All right.
Thanks everyone.